Hey, Stoney here with another game of Mechabellum. And if you want to watch a top-tier Mechabellum player, Dezem, defend against a very aggressive push involving aggro spiders and a huge pivot in the mid-game, this is the game for you. Let's go. At the bottom here, we have Dezem playing as Quick Supply Specialist. Dezem is probably known as one of the best standard players. He was actually the champion of the Dead vs. Pro tournament that happened last month. Taking 2 games out of the 3 against another extremely good defensive player, Steel Saint. Alright, on the top here we have Boss Baby playing as a Fire Badger specialist, the up-and-coming player, and he's going to go with Aggro Spiders with Marksman. This is one of my favorite positions to play. I love having the board set up like this. In fact, I do it exactly the same way he does. The reason when you're set up your crawlers like this is that it almost times it so that it takes about less than 6 seconds for your second pack of crawler to arrive after the first one. And why 6 seconds, you ask? Well, if you look at stone crawlers, they fire every 6.3 seconds. So if you stagger your crawlers correctly, that just means that every time your stone crawlers shoot, they will be shooting at a crawler instead your tarantula, allowing your tarantulas to live a little bit longer. The problem with tarantula aggro is that the first 3 rounds are going to be a little rough, especially if you're running into stormcrawlers. They do 2-shot your tarantula, assuming all of their missiles land, and that's going to be a little bit problematic. After turn 3, you can get range on the tarantula and you can get more chaff. Both will help the survivability of the tarantula, and you probably at that point not going to have that great of a problem. Stonecrawlers. Round 2, we got a unit drop here. I think for Dezem, we have great option for arc lights. I thought Scorpion was also good into tarantulas, but for now, I think you just need a little bit more chaff clear. Boss Baby taking a surprise Wraith and is putting it all the way on the other side. Whenever you're playing aggro, don't always just focus on one side. Sometimes you know that your opponents are going to double down on the defense. So what you can do is to start striking onto the other side. If you can get a quick tower, that is going to help your main army to win a lot faster. So I love this play here with the Wraith onto the other side. Now, Dezem is no slouch. I mean, he's played countless aggro players. I would say about a third of the players at the 2200 plus MMR or aggro. You can name a few, right? Like Sacco, Rooster is very aggro. Surrey, of course, huge aggro player. Sarah Zeech, who are just coming back into the fold after taking a month vacation, right? Also a great aggro player. So Dezem, with the MMR that he is at right now, he has to be comfortable playing against aggro, and he has to understand this sort of tactic, right? You're pushing on one side, but then you're also trying to make it work into the tower on the other. So a great read and also a great upgrade into that level 2 tower. If this tower was level 1, the Wraith would have gotten a long time ago, and the red player would still have tons of units left over. All right, we got reinforcement cards. Efficient technology got picked up, or efficient tech research got picked up right away by both players. We also had advanced powertrain available. I think the red player could have taken the advanced powertrain, and that would have helped his units move a little bit faster. With battle spiders, especially if you're going to take range later, it is not required. I think it's more useful if you're running things like Wraith Steel Ball. Very interesting. One of the spiders actually got sold and it was replaced with Wraith and now with range. So it seems like there is going to be a transition away from the spiders into the Wraith. We have level 2 Stormcrawlers on the ground, and we also have Phoenixes in the air. Phoenixes don't do particularly well into ranged Wraith because their range they're not the same, and Phoenix still outranges the Wraith, but Wraith is just so much better at killing everything else. It's kind of the dynamic you're looking at when you're playing Scorch Vulcan into Melting Point. technically, a melting point can get a Vulcan, right? No problem. That's what the melting point is supposed to do. But because Scorched Vulcan can kill everything else so much faster, allowing you to target your melting point before it has a chance to get to your Vulcan. So it's the same sort of dynamic here. Wraith works into, or range Wraith works into Phoenixes because it kills everything else. So in this case though, it looks like one of the Phoenix is going to survive and win the round with a Zemp. Reinforcement cart. Boss Baby took Mobile Beacon, and the Zemp took Bombard. Bombard makes sense because none of its units actually moves. And if you can get through the chaff, we got Phoenixes ready to go, and that should be a pretty easy win here for the Zemp. However, kind of coming back to that, you know, if you're forcing on the strong side, don't forget on the weak side. So Boss Baby is now adding a pack of steel balls, trying to take that tower a little bit faster before the Phoenixes will have a chance onto this big. Alright, the balls are now getting to the tower, but unfortunately we already have Phoenixes waiting, which means these balls are not able to get tower in time, but it doesn't even matter. These two Wraiths already clean up business, and we're just mopping it up. Get tower. Wraiths get really scary with a few levels because at level 1, they're nothing more than glorified chaff clear. But when you get to level 3, and if you take 8-gun or the floating artillery array, these Wraiths can absolutely bring down giants like Melting Point. So be very careful to not let your aggro players Wraith level. And a huge round because every Wraith costs 300 HP. So now we got 3 Wraiths that are now going to level 2. Super heavy armor is offered. But it's going to be Rhino itself and Zem getting a little bit more tempo. He can also choose the mobilized battleship, but it's very expensive. Alright, it's going to be a super heavy armor here for the red player. And I wonder if it's going to put it on a ball or on a Wraith. I'm going to say it's going to go on a ball. So a very common tactic when you go ball Wraith is to not take range on a ball, but instead take armor and energy absorption. That's going to force the ball to always be ahead of the Wraith, tanking the damage and allowing your Wraith to actually do the job. Energy absorption allows you to bring down giants very quickly as long as your balls are not getting killed instantly. And really, the main damage from a ball Wraith comp is the 8-gun Wraith. Alright, so we got a Rhino drop here, and this is going to be deadly because it doesn't seem like there's going to be any defense. All the units are being moved to the front line here. Oil goes down for the Zemp. Oil is possibly the strongest ability a defender can have in against an aggro player. With oil, everything slows down, which means you get a few more volley onto the unit. Rhino is coming in. Rhino is going to get tower, and this is looking really bad for our red player here. All right. However, we do have a Wraith that was just refusing to die, and it took down one more Phoenix with him. Alright, so it's the first loss from our red player here. And the Zem's board is starting to stabilize. I think Vulcan would be a great option for the Zem. Not only he can ignite the fire, so fire will be the last round here. Vulcan is also really good in dealing with chaff later on. So it's going to be a melting point, I think, specifically to deal with this Wraith with super heavy armor. And on our red player side, we got a Sabertooth, but sold it for cash. So what he's really trying to do, I think, is just going to put down even more Wraiths. Power gets upgraded to level 2. We got level 1 Phoenix trying to snipe, and that is not going to happen. Interestingly, we have energy absorption before armor. I think it makes sense because right now on the board here, the real damage dealers are these Phoenixes, so armor is not going to help too much. Energy absorption is probably a direct response to either the Vulcan drop or the melting point. Alright, we got a little cheeky flank here, and that's been there for a while. We got Fire Badgers and Fans that's going to tie up all these units, at least for a few minutes. And if I were Boss Baby, I'll probably just keep these here. I mean, that's not a whole lot of investment, and that's holding a lot of units on the side, allowing your WRAITH and the Steel Balls to get the job done. We got a mobile beacon going around this oil. Very smart. And also this marksman, because it's going around this oil, is actually pulling all these crawlers to the front. Although Boss Baby had a level 2 tower, but this WRAITH has been, the Phoenix has been on the tower for a good 30 seconds and was able to promptly down. Right. Great round for the Zemp. Now, if I were Boss Baby, I probably want to get maybe efficient light manufacturing and just start dropping crawlers left and right. 3 squads of crawlers minimum per round. Loose, great option. I think you want to get loose, you want to get more crawlers, probably a missile here to deal with the Phoenix, and then at some point you're going to want to take 8 gun. December is going to go with boats. Boats are great at killing both the WRAITH as well as the Steel Balls. And here's the 8-gun. So now, our rep player has essentially doubled the damage output of these level 2 WRAITHs. So you'll notice the difference right away because the chaff from the Zemp is just going to melt. Multiple missiles are coming down, mostly just to deal with the initial chaff, allowing the Phoenixes to lock on to hopefully a WRAITH sooner. He actually sold the melting point in favor of going with the boats. Boats do have a little bit more tempo compared to a melting point, but just look at those 8 guns absolutely wiping everything off the board here. And the loose crawlers are actually doing a great work, tanking so much damage, not just from the Phoenixes, but also from the arc lights. So a huge round for Boss Baby. Alright, unit drop once again. And this time it's going to be Vulcan with Firebomb. Wasps are being added. Wasps are great into both the Overlord as well as the Phoenixes later on. Now with AA. Wasp can also serve as a tanking element, so almost like an air chaff. Because these wasps are not ranged, which means they will move ahead of these WRAITH, tanking the damage from these Phoenixes. Phoenixes got shield, allowing them to take more damage. But I think really what's great here on the Zemp's board are the firebombs. Being a defensive player, he'll never have to really worry about his units running into the fire. Most of his chaff line consists of fangs, so they're pretty much going to stand where they are and shoot. And these firebombs, they're going to kill so many crawlers. And without the crawlers, there's not going to be any defense in the sky. And without defense in the sky, my WRAITH can, Baby Boss's WRAITH cannot be effective. The Phoenix is coming once again, getting the tower. That is very painful. Without this tower capture, I think the red players got it in the bag. With the tower capture, we're going to have multiple boats surviving. That's super. Alright, getting down to the wire here. We're into the final round. And I'm pretty sure the red player realizes what's going to happen at the back line here and hopefully defend against that appropriately. Electromag was chosen. Unfortunately, you cannot defend against Electromag. But here's the kicker. We have Electromag and Bombard. Electromag is going to keep all the units slow. And then Bombard is going to keep all the units in that area being shot to death. So a potent combination. Oil is also off cooldown. This is a devastating round. I mean, without these two abilities, I would say our red player still has a fairly decent chance of winning this round. But with Electromag and Bombard, I mean, first of all, say goodbye to your Wasp. They're not going to survive. Oil on the other side, which means the steel balls themselves aren't able to get the job done. Taking Degen Beam here, and just to be disabled. Very, very tricky. All right, more boats are coming down. I think we're at a point where I have a critical mass of boats and phoenixes. And of course, there are Vulcans, and so there's going to be fire everywhere. The red player is going to come into a board with no chaff, oil on the ground, and slowed and being bombarded. This is a brutal combination. Alright, some of the Wasps still survive, but without a gun, these Wraiths simply aren't doing enough to the board here. We have another Rhino job in the back line. Man, the Zemp is just going crazy with all these sort of backdrop. So Rhino in the back line here, and Rhino is moving towards the tower. It doesn't really matter. It feels like the game is almost over. We have a level 3 Phoenix just going around, shooting things, hopefully get it done. Level 3 Wraith, though, does have a nano repair kit, which means it can possibly survive. We only have a level 2 Phoenix and a level 1 Overlord. So let's see. Ooh, almost surviving. No! And with that, the Zemp is going to take victory. An absolutely great game from both players. Strong pressure, lots of clever responses. I think there was a couple mistakes of not defending your tower, and that cost the round. Overall, fantastic aggro, and the Zemp just being relentless with the abilities and just kind of play in a calm manner, switching out giants that didn't work. So kudos to both. And thank you very much for watching. And if you like to see another exciting game with strong aggro and strong reactive play, here's another game for you. And I will see you on the next one.
Prepare your tactics. Mechabellum's calling. Deploy your fortress. The battlefield's alive with swarms.